Good evening and welcome to Up Front. My name is Raymond Akwa. Today is part 2 of why the UT and Capital Bank collapsed. Yesterday, we actually spoke to the minority that were asking some questions on the state and demanding the Bank of Ghana and the Ministry of Finance come to explain exactly why this incident happened. Today, we have summoned the Bank of Ghana. In fact, we have no powers to do so, but we have actually brought the Bank of Ghana to you to give you the answers you've not been getting about why this happened and the assurance you can get from the central bank. My name is Raymond Akwa. When we come back for the break, I'll tell you who at the Bank of Ghana is my guest today. You welcome back. This is Up Front. My guest is the head of banking supervision at the Bank of Ghana, Raymond Amanfo. So today, Raymond meets Raymond in an interaction over the collapse of two banks and the eventual takeover of the GCB. We'll be getting more details from what really happened and perhaps get to understand who failed that got us here in the first place. Mr. Amanfo, you're welcome to Up Front.
Thank you, Raymond.
I hope you're doing well.
Well, we're managing this.
Yeah, you are the man in the center of all of this, so it's very difficult to reach and engage. We are happy that you joined us today. But let's take it from the top. For those who are still struggling to understand what had happened in the last few days, because this one all the same happened so fast. Those who are still struggling to get it, why did these banks collapse?
Okay. Thank you, Raymond. I think basically, I would say that these banks had capital challenges and liquidity challenges.
Okay, so that's good financial terms. What does it mean when you say capital and liquidity challenges?
Yeah, you know, every business, whether in the secular or everything, will require some capital to start the business and work through the business to generate profits. Right. Now, every business, including banks, has some risks they have to contend with. Now, when you look at the banking sector, in our environment, the major risk is what we call credit risk. Basically, the risk of default in loans or default in other financial instruments that are not paid on demand, and also delay in recovery of these loans. In recent times, we have had to make also some capital allowance in respect of operational risks. That is, if there are frauds in a bank, if there are system failures, if there are human errors and results in some level of losses, we expect that there must be capital cushioning for it. We also expect that if interest rate changes quite against the bank, that means that if you borrow deposit at a certain price, and then all of a sudden there's an economic improvement and rates start coming down, you have to reprice, you make loss. If there are exchange rate volatilities, you take an exchange rate position on a transaction, and then it goes against you, you have to make provision to cushion that. Now, all these things must be sorted out by the capital of the bank. Okay. That is shareholders' contribution. Now, shareholders' contribution come in basically two forms. The paid-up capital and then income surplus. That is profits that have been made over the years. Now, these two, in ordinary balance, these two should be able to at least cover 10% of the risk that the bank faces. That means the risk of default, the risk of interest rate changes, and then the risk of operations. So where you don't have enough of this shareholders' money to cover 10% of that, then you have a problem. The problem can be classified into three. Either you have a shortfall that is between, that means that you can't cover all the 10, but you can cover above 5 but less than 10. Then there are those who can have less than 5, but then they are positive. Then there are those who don't have anything at all. Means that the capital has technically been eroded. Means that shareholders' funds have been eaten up by some of these losses. When it happens, then you are insolvent. It means that you don't have capital to work with. And what will be happening is that then you'll be using depositors' money to pay yourself, to run the business, buy equipment, whatever.
Okay.
When you do that, then you are actually endangering customer deposits. Right.
Okay, now, so there are 3 scenarios you said. Let's take them one by one. In the case of UT Bank, where did they find themselves?
They were the last group, negative capital. Means that they don't have shareholders fund and therefore tend to rely on funds they mobilize to do all those things that shareholders should have provided capital to do.
Okay, so that's interesting. How about Capital Bank?
The two are the same. They all have the same.
They were in the same state.
They all have the same position.
Okay, let's get to know why they got there and how they got there. Can you tell us how UT Bank got there?
Let me put the two together because they are similar circumstances.
But are there any differences at all so we don't confuse the two?
Well, when I say is the magnitude, but what caused it is virtually the same.
Because, I mean, for example, UT was listed.
Yes.
So the shareholding is different from Capital Bank.
Yes.
Very good. So that's what I want.
No, but you see, Raymond,
Yes.
whether you are listed or you are not listed, you are supposed to bring capital.
Yeah.
If your capital is deficient, whether you are listed or not, you are supposed to go back to your shareholders and bring capital or find new shareholders and bring additional capital.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying that the issue of whether you are listed or not is
May not
not
be an
very
issue.
critical.
I get
at
your
this
point.
time. Yeah.
So, first and foremost for UT, how did they get there?
Okay, let me say that UT basically was an SME bank. And in banking, it is very important you play in the market that you have your best foot. UT, after getting the license and operating for some time, then aspired to go corporate, trying to do bigger tickets. Right. As a central bank, I don't control what business you want to do. You must have the expertise. You must have the lay down, credit structures and things to do that. Now, UT goes into certain transactions that are not his core niche market. Go into financing projects, go into financing some oil transactions, which he doesn't have the capacity.
Okay, so they were owed debt by state institutions?
I think they have nothing, their closure has nothing to do with state-owned enterprises debt.
Okay.
Let me explain. They did transaction with TOR, they did some transaction with some BDCs, but these have been guaranteed and are being paid by government. So those facilities were not classified as bad debt.
Oh, okay.
So that is what we have to understand.
So that was the nature of these oil deals that they went
No,
into?
you go and start financing oil exploration. You go and start setting up manufacturing entities. You go and finance big-time construction.
Housing?
Road sector.
Roads?
Yes.
I see.
So when you do this, do you have the liquidity, do you have the expertise to do that? It may be within your single obligor at that time, but do you have the expertise to do that? Now, when you have locked up such funds and you are not making enough recoveries, it puts a stress on your balance sheet.
Okay.
Then you begin to then struggle. When people want their money, you are tight.
That's interesting to know. Yeah. Banks, like every other institution, take risk. Was it foreseeable to these banks? Was it foreseeable that it was likely to end them, or in this particular case, UT, that charting these waters, uncharted waters, was going to end them where they were?
Raymond, I think you made a point that you have to take risk.
Yes.
But the question is, can you manage the risks?
Okay.
Do you have the cushioning when the risk crystallizes? Can you contain it?
Okay.
You see, because, one of the things that this whole thing has brought to the fore is the fact that sometimes banks go on what I will call the bandwagon effect. They see A, B, C, D do support of roads, very lucrative. So, well, if this customer is good and as Bank A has given me money, Bank B has given me money, is good, then why not go there? But what they refuse to understand is that what are the controls Bank A has put in place, Bank B has put in place?
Okay, that's interesting.
If you don't have it, and you think that because Bank A has gone in and is making money, I also go and make money, you bend your fingers.
Okay. What you narrated to me sounds like a good business thinking gone bad.
Yes, because when you are thinking about a good business, the important thing you have to take out, the business looks good, but do I have the capacity to manage it? Let me tell you, there is one institution that decided to do a transaction. As it's within its remit, as a central bank, we caution that, look, this is what the industry issue is about this company.
Okay.
Be careful. So, regulator, don't worry. Give me about 3-page measures they have taken to make sure the money doesn't fail. They have set up a plant there to collect the local proceeds, the proceeds every day. Regulator, why are you worried? But when it hit them, then they came to realize that the regulator was making sense.
Is this UT or Capital Bank?
None of them.
None of these. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like some standard practice.
Yeah,
within the
so
banking industry.
banks will want to take the risk, but my worry is that take risks that you can manage.
Calculable risk.
Yes, is it?
Calculable risk.
Yes. Take risks that you can manage, and take risks that when it crystallizes, you won't be found wanting.
I see the point in this case. So how different is the UT situation from the Capital Bank one?
Thank you, Raymond. Capital Bank has nothing to do about energy. Nothing from our analysis.
Okay.
Capital issue is a bit interesting. You go to Capital Bank, you find the books, you see from where I sit, from what I call offside view, the loans look pretty nice. They'll give you good returns, quick returns. But we do what we call on-site. Now, when this special exercise was being done, we took another step. That is not only the loans that we are going to look at. We are going to look at other earning assets. Assets that bring them money. And find out whether these assets are really bringing money or they are deemed to be bringing money. And so the exercise looked at all investment portfolios. If it is treasury bill, we want to find out who do you do that. Is it government treasury bill? If it is placement, is it placement with another bank? Is it placement with a microfinance? Is it a placement with this? Don't forget that your placements, depending on the risk you perceive where you place the money, determines the interest rates.
Okay.
Now, technically, what has happened to Capital Bank is that apart from the loans having problems, quite a substantial amount have been placed with other financial institutions which were not doing well.
Interesting.
Right? So if, for instance, you go and place money with another company, that the company itself is struggling, when I come as an examiner, I will do what I will downgrade that facility and take a capital charge. Now, so these were some of the issues.
You would downgrade the capital bank,
Yeah, I would downgrade
the smaller institution that you've given
I
money
would
to.
downgrade the facility.
Okay.
See, the health of the facility depends on how regular they service the facility, how regular interest is paid. So if from where I sit, I know that this institution that you have put money there is having a challenge, and I don't see interest being paid, that means that terms of repayment are not followed, and you start taking income, you start taking interest into income when the facility is not being paid. I will reverse all. And when you reverse it, what it means is that the so-called profit, and for that to matter, the shareholders' funds that is portraying to you in the offsite review slumps quickly, because I'll reverse all those income, but they are not monies that have been realized.
I see. So what this tells me is that, and I'm respectfully struggling to see where these banks could have deliberately taken a bad decision which probably could rise to the level of fraud.
The point is, when we institute an investigation, you will find out, you will try to find out, one, these companies that they were exposed to, who are they?
Okay.
Who are behind it? Is there any insider relationship? Is there any insider abuse?
Okay. I'll come back to you after this short break. And we're still on Upfront here. My guest is the head of banking supervision at the Bank of Ghana. We are getting to the meat of why UT and Capital Bank collapse. You get all the information here. And we'll be looking at what happens from now on and what is being done to make sure that this is not repeated after this break. Back. This is Upfront, and our conversation today is wrapping up on what's been happening in the course of the week. Monday, we were all told of the takeover. It looked like a violent takeover, though, by the GCB of the UT and Capital Banks. Then the issues started coming out. Today, we're asking what really went wrong. How can that be prevented going into the future? And if there is any sanction regime, who is supposed to be held liable and responsible? And when the Bank of Ghana says people who are culpable will be dealt with, exactly what do they mean by that? My guest is the head of supervision at the Bank of Ghana, Raymond Amanfo, and we can continue our conversation. Mr. Amanfo, you're welcome back. And we went off with you breaking it to the barest minimum. Why these banks collapsed. Now, in the narrative you gave us, was there any point in time the Bank of Ghana failed to do a specific job which contributed to, or probably gave them the leeway to operate the way they operated, and maybe was part of the reasons why these banks are where they are now, in defunct status?
Yeah, I think we did what we are supposed to do. What happens every year, and for that matter, periodically in the year, is to engage these banks. What we do is to examine every bank, including UT and Capital, look at their books, come with a position of their status, and communicate to them and give them recommendations that has to be implemented. Right. So I would say that we did that. But the other thing that has to deal with certain actions that could be taken, especially in the previous law, there is some level of ambiguity in certain sanctions that you have to give. For instance, if a bank defaults in, let's say, capital adequacy requirements,
Okay.
or doesn't classify his loan properly, the only sanction you have under the old law is a penalty, financial penalty. Right. Now, so if you apply the financial penalty, that's it. And then you even invite. I'm very much aware that at some point the highest level of the bank, including the governors at that time, called these banks and discussed these matters. Right. We must also understand that closing banks, for that matter, is not a simple issue that at the slightest violation, you close a bank. I'll be sure that by that, no bank will even survive in this country.
Okay, let me understand this. So did the Bank of Ghana at any point in time pump money into these banks?
When you say pump,
did the Bank of Ghana help them?
Yes, definitely. Let me explain. Don't forget that the Bank of Ghana is a lender of last resort.
Yeah.
What it means is that if you are in a liquidity stress situation, a liquidity stress can come out not as a result of you are not only insolvent. Let's say that you've done a transaction. In banking, we call something maturity analysis. You look at your assets and liability and you match them. So you put them in buckets. Okay. So what we are saying is that in your buckets, you must have more liquid assets in your up to 90 days than going to the extent. But we must also understand that more liquidity means less profitability. Because when you hold liquid assets, cash, bank balances, and that, so banks will have to manage it. So when there's a mismatch, and let's say you are expecting a cash flow from, let's say, a loan, and it doesn't come, the central bank can come to your aid for a temporary period of about 90 days.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, when they do that, then you pay, and occasionally when you have the challenge, you come. In the case of these two banks, the issue that cropped up for UT, for instance, that caused the central bank to help is one of the situations is where you have established an LC payable by a foreign correspondent bank. Now, getting to maturity, you don't have the liquidity even to buy the dollars. Now, where I sit as a member of the College of Supervisors of West Africa, these things have led to serious consequences for some countries.
Okay.
If you are not able to pay, your correspondent bank blacklists you and blacklists the country.
Okay.
So it means that all correspondent banks in that jurisdiction will sever relationship with our banks. And the consequences are that. If, let's say, Citibank does that, you should expect that the other international banks will follow.
Okay.
So your foreign trade becomes, so you have to come in and assist. Now, when you do that, in the case of UT, that is one of the main challenges. In case of Capital Bank, it's also this issue of placements that have been made and monies are not coming, right? So the question is, you have to manage and try to contain it and get the recovery. When these monies are not coming, of course, as a central bank, you can't be pushing money every time. You can't be perpetually giving money. If I give you money today, tomorrow you pay the next day, and I see that it becoming perpetual, then what happens is that then I must go further and find out that the issue is not too much about the liquidity, but it is about capital and your solvency.
Okay.
And that is what happened in these two banks. At a certain point, we felt that we can no longer continue with the liquidity support because then the issue now becomes not too much of the liquidity per se, but there's an in-depth problem, which is the solvency, which must be solved.
Okay, so, I mean, the understanding many get out of this is you came out to say their deposits are safe. Mm-hmm. They had also asking the question, when you look at the Ghana Deposit Protection Act 2016, of course, it also established the Deposit Protection Scheme, that's some for insurance also, and the Deposit Protection Fund and the Deposit Protection Corporation. The guarantees you are giving to these depositors, does it extend to stakeholders in the bank?
What do you mean by stakeholders?
As in directors too?
No. Let's get the issue. The deposit protection has not commenced. Let's be very.
The law has not been.
It has been passed, but you know there are procedures for the law to be implemented.
Oh, okay. It's not been implemented at all.
It's not been implemented.
How about what they call it, specialized deposit taking?
That has been implemented.
That has been implemented. Okay.
Now, when you talk about stakeholders, and you are talking about the directors, what we have done in the course of this exercise is to block directors' accounts, is to block related parties' accounts, is to block key management staff accounts. Now, the reason why we have done that temporarily, I must have put the word temporarily, is that we have to examine those accounts from, let's say, a period.
Okay.
And then try to find out, are there any unusual transactions? If the unusual transactions, then it must be investigated.
What do you mean by unusual transactions?
Let's say that you are management, or you are a director, and we see from the account, the only money that comes into your account is basically director's fee. Okay, let's say, I don't know exactly how much they pay, but if it is 5,000 per sitting, and then I see all of a sudden movement from the same bank into your account of, let's say, 200,000. I want to know why. What happened?
Okay.
Right? Or I want to see a narration in your account. Loan to Director X. Loan for what? Then I go in and find out. Was the procedure for approval followed? Does it have a board approval? Did it go through the risk management framework? Is it consistent with the act that gives you as to how much you can lend to a director?
Okay.
Is it a related company? Does the director involved absented himself from the meeting? Or did he excuse himself? Or did he fully disclose that I am an interested party in this company?
Has this been done for the two banks?
No, that's what I'm saying. That
there's currently a freeze.
There's currently a freeze, and we are going on it. I mean, the team from Bank of Ghana is there with the Pricewaterhouse. We are looking at this thing because, you see, they are not things that you can block for a long time.
Okay, I get you, but let me be clear. You had indicated earlier on that you are investigating. Is this the investigation you're talking about?
No. This is what we call post-acquisition work.
Oh, okay.
Right? We want to find out. If I find anything unusual, it becomes a subject to the investigator. That is my preliminary findings. Right? So you give it to...
So has the investigator started work yet?
Not yet. We have selected a firm to do that. But
which firm are we talking about?
Well, I don't think, because I've not gotten the approval from PPA, I don't think it's wise for me to...
Okay, you have to go to procurement to do
because
that.
we are dealing with... We want you to be fast.
So this is an external firm?
Yes, it's an external firm.
Okay.
Of chartered accountants, bankers, and lawyers.
Oh, okay.
So we have to make sure that if I say that somebody has committed fraud, the lawyers in the team should be able to put it, because you see, the onus is on you.
They should be able to actually gather evidence.
Yes. So that is why you have to take not only an accounting firm, take a firm that has accountants, that have bankers, who understand. If I say you get a loan, the person knows how loans are processed, the stages it goes through.
Is it PwC or KPMG?
It's not. It's not any of them.
It's not any of them?
It's not any of them.
It's an external institution?
It's a local firm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yes.
But you believe they have competence in this area?
Well, you look at their background, you look at their CV, you look at the works that they have done.
Okay. So what specifically are they expected to do?
One, what we are saying is that they should review the corporate governance issues in this bank. How were decisions taken?
The two or one? Both?
Or both.
Okay, that's clear.
How were decisions taken? Were there any infractions on the rules? Right? Were there any insider abuse? Why these decisions were made? Who made those decisions? Were they board decisions? Were they an individual's decision? Was it the CEO? Who made those decisions?
So they are to find out whether something went wrong.
Yeah, that's the point.
But so far, do we have any reason to believe something went wrong?
Raymond, You can't have a bank plunged so deep without something going wrong.
But
you have to put your hand. Like I said, we have reviewed the loan book. We have reviewed investment made. We think that some investment decisions went bad.
Okay, so but you have to establish whether they were made in good faith or bad faith.
That is it. That is it. Otherwise, I will try to crucify somebody. And of course, the rule of justice says that give the person a hearing.
Okay, but the understanding I also want to have from you is, how long is this group going to do their work?
I think basically they don't have more than 3 months.
90 days?
Yes, yes.
And when they finish submitting the report to the Bank of Ghana?
They submit the report to the Bank of Ghana, to the governor, and I'm sure it will get to the Bank of Ghana board.
So are you looking out for any breaches of existing law or fraud?
Both, if it is there.
Then what will you do?
Depends on the kind of offense. If it is fraud, and like I said, there are lawyers in it.
Yeah.
We'll then have to go through the necessary, if it's AG or whatever. If there's need for prosecution, we'll have to go there.
And in this case, would it include all directors and possibly board chairman or chairman of these banks?
Provided they are found culpable in the findings. For instance, if you go to a board meeting, for instance, and there's evidence that one person in the meeting seriously objected and had his view recorded,
okay,
you can't hold him responsible.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You understand? So we have to be careful not to put everybody in the bucket because he's a board member.
Okay. Yeah. Now, the current status of affairs makes these banks, they are virtually collapsed. They are not existent today.
Yeah.
So it makes also their directors look very bad.
Yeah.
Is there any assurance that it is possible these people did nothing wrong?
You see, they might not have done something criminally wrong, right? Mm-hmm. But they can be held responsible for running the bank down. You understand?
Okay.
You have taken decisions, you didn't have any malice in that. The decisions have resulted in losses. Who should we blame?
Okay.
So it may not be criminal, but you have run the bank aground.
All right.
Yes.
So you mentioned that the directors, i.e. when directors are also shareholders, these shareholders will not have any sort of protection or compensation.
Yeah, but you see, what you have to find out from what I know about the rules of shareholding.
Yeah.
If you're an ordinary shareholder, you are the worst risk taker. The ultimate loss of the company, it is when everybody has been paid that you get. The reason being that when profits are made, you are the person who benefits.
Okay. But can't it be that except in those circumstances where clear evidence of culpability of conduct exists, that's how these shareholders can be actually deprived of what they deserve?
Yeah, but what they deserve in terms of if there are residual benefits that must go to them. Okay. But if there are no residual benefits, of course, they are the risk takers. Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, so there are people asking, why is it now that the Bank of Ghana wants to investigate and prosecute upon findings of culpability?
Why is it now?
Yes.
Yes, you have got a bank that has failed. Mm-hmm. Do we say it has failed, so that is the end of the matter?
The question is, when did we know this bank has failed?
No. What I'm saying is that if I've not revoked your license, are you saying that I should drag everybody to court? And what I'm basically saying is that you've run a bank down, the bank has collapsed. I must find out whether the collapse has been due to your actions or inactions.
Okay, so if the shareholders have found some money to reinvest into these particular banks, we wouldn't be sitting here, right?
Definitely. You know why? What we have said...
Does it not necessarily then clear them of all of these things you are talking about, investigations and stuff like that?
No, you see...
Because it looks like the only big deal here is they didn't have money.
No, what we have said is that we have given you an opportunity, right? That this bank is deficient in capital. Bring capital. Remember, what we should ask ourselves is that why is it that nobody wanted to bring capital?
Okay.
It's simply because people believe that this bank has sunk so low that, look, we don't have any trust in this bank.
Okay.
Right. Otherwise, there are many people who call at my office, we want to invest in a bank, and we get a bank to invest. Basically, I tell them that you are supposed to go and look for the bank and come for my approval. I can't recommend a bank to you that go to this bank. Otherwise, I'll be a judge and a referee in my own state.
I get your point. So you think there was nothing in terms of supervision done wrong by the Bank of Ghana?
Well, I won't say that, because you see, basically, it's not everything that you can see. Yeah, I mean, let's be very frank. If I go on an examination or I do on-site, off-site simply means that you submit returns to me, I review, check the numbers. And when I pick signals.
I particularly referenced the Capital Bank situation. You made it clear that the off-site books looked very good to you from where you sat. Yet you cannot determine what went wrong. Yeah,
no, listen. If I come to, I look at the balance sheet. You have made placements. Okay? Placements, and you are getting the returns from it. You are crediting your income. Fine. You see, let's get it clear. We don't do supervision with the view of the ultimate goal of catching a thief, for lack of better word.
Okay.
Right? So, whatever I see on your books, it gives me an information. Let me tell you something. I look at your balance sheet. Technically, I would want to see every bank, most banks, your core income earning asset is your loan book, followed by maybe government papers. Okay, that is treasury bills and everything.
Okay.
Especially when treasury bills are high, rates are high. That's where everybody will go and hide for safety. But if I look at your balance sheet, and then I see that placements with maybe other financial institutions is quite significant, it sends me a signal. And that is one of the things that led us into finding out what is there in the other investments with other financial institutions.
Okay.
In capital.
Do we know these other financial institutions?
Yeah, we know them.
Who are these other financial institutions?
You don't expect me to tell you.
Why not?
You don't expect me to tell
Because, for example, one of the demands of the minority in Parliament, which they'll be hauling the Bank of Ghana to the Parliament to come and tell them, is who are the people who are indebted to these banks?
Yes. Okay.
What's the nature of their indebtedness to these banks? Is there information available?
Let me tell you. The information is available.
So why is it not in the public domain?
No. If you are owing, would you expect me to publish your name in the papers and say Raymond Akwa is owing?
No, but
don't forget that I work.
But there's a bigger discussion here.
No.
There's a fear that. No. Okay, so how about if by my state I'm unable to pay this bank I'm unable to pay other banks too?
Hold it.
It's not in the interest of the other banks to equally know.
Hold it. The other banks have what it takes to know.
They are
supposed to go to the Credit Reference Bureau,
and
find out. You see, I'm under law. I'm under law of confidentiality to disclose information about somebody with only his permission by an order of a court.
Even when the banks involved are collapsed?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We have to be careful. You have to be extremely careful.
So you know the people that these banks owe.
Yeah.
You are saying you cannot tell us, the rest of us in this republic, including shareholders, including stakeholders in these banks.
What I'm saying is that if I'm put under the appropriate regime, I will disclose.
I mean, what do you mean by that?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
To publish the list of people who owe UT Bank?
The people whose debt contributed to his current status.
Well, what I'm saying is that what you are telling me is that.
But it's not everybody that owes the bank that actually led to this point.
Yes.
We know that some people. So which ones were declared as bad debt? That's what we want to know.
So you want us to publish their names?
Why not?
I'm sorry, we can't do that.
So that's a direct answer to the minority who are saying that you have to do that. Are you aware?
No. The minority say we should do that.
Yes.
If we go through the process, we can tell you that so much loans are bad. That is my position. I'm not saying this is the bank's position. If you want to compel me to tell you, you have to use the appropriate channel to compel me.
Which is?
That is by honor of courts. I mean, you see, they passed the law. I didn't pass it.
I get your point. So that point is also.
Yeah, so what I'm
clarified.
saying is that if they think that we have to mention names, don't forget that this similar issue came when we were dealing with Merchant Bank. And we have to explain that under the terms of the law, if I go and disclose that Raymond Acquah is owing without his express approval or without an order of a court, I'm in trouble.
Even if the bank has declared my debt bad debt.
Yes, but the fact that I declare your bad debt, look, it is not only this bank. Maybe it's because it's at this stage. Every bank has a bad debt.
I get your point. But
so do I publish every bad debt?
Okay, now.
Or is it because these ones have collapsed, I should publish bad debt?
Now I'm running out of time. Quickly, there's a discussion on the protection that staff of these banks want. What's the state of the engagement on that particular issue?
No, I think we
Is it true that 40% are going to be laid off?
Well, I can't confirm that. I will explain.
The GCB gives the impression that that's going to be the case.
Of course. You see, Raymond, let's get this thing clear. Let's say you take GCB that has assumed these banks. If you go to Accra Newtown, for instance, you know where GCB is.
Yeah.
You know where Capital Bank is.
Yeah.
You know where UT Bank is.
Yeah.
What's the distance?
They are virtually close.
So do you, economically, you think it's prudent for GCB to say that I'm keeping all the 3 branches? But if GCB decides that I'm going to close these 2 branches.
And relocate it?
Yes, relocate. Or I'm going to close these 2 branches. Ultimately, the customers will flow from those 2 branches to GCB.
So expand and let them go and work in that particular station.
So, and of course, you see, let's also understand, there are some personalities that may lose their jobs. It's just like you are merging 3 banks. You have a certain high-level staff. You can't maintain all of them. But what is worth noting is that GCB want to maintain quite a substantial. You said
60%.
The 60%.
That's substantial.
Well, if they have collapsed, what would have happened? They will all lose their jobs.
Okay.
What shows that they may not even absorb more.
I'm running
than
out
that.
of time. My time is up, actually. Yeah. What is being done to ensure this does not happen again?
Of course, now the laws are very clear.
Yes.
We will enforce the laws to the letter. And we also want the customers and all customers of every bank to be a little bit careful. Careful in the sense that don't try to be enticed by. One of the problems with these banks is the high cost of operation. You are giving deposits at 29%, 30%. You must be very careful about.
And they didn't want them?
Oh, but Acquah, you know that we don't control rates. I will caution you.
Okay.
But it's your strategy.
So with the new laws, you can actually make sure that things are done and we don't see a repeat of this.
Oh, we'll do our best to do that.
We can't assure us that there won't be a repeat of this.
It's just like telling you that nobody will die.
Well, Mr. Amanfo, thank you so much for joining us on this one. And that's where we tie the nice ribbons on today's edition of Upfront. My guest has been the head of supervision at the Bank of Ghana. And we'll be looking into the future, what happens next. They have set up, they are now recruited a grouping to investigate them properly. We will look at the outcome in the future. Thank you so much for joining us.